Most of us think building wealth is just a math problem, right? If we can just earn a little more, save a little more, invest a bit better, the numbers will add up. But what if I told you that for a lot of us, the biggest thing holding us back isn't in our bank account, but right here, between our ears? To really see what I mean, let's look at two very different stories.
So check this out. On one side, you have a guy named Ronald Reed. He was a janitor, a gas station attendant his whole life. He quietly passed away with an $8 million fortune. Then on the other side, you've got Richard Fuscone, Harvard-educated, a top executive at Merrill Lynch, who declared bankruptcy. I mean, think about that. One guy had all the education, the right connections. He had the math. But the other guy, he had the right mind.
And that really gets to the heart of it all. The real barrier to wealth so often isn't your income or your stock picks, it's the invisible programming that's running in your mind.
Does this sound at all familiar? You're putting in the hours, you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, but you look at your finances and it feels like you're just stuck on a treadmill. It's so frustrating. Well, the problem might not be your job at all. It could be this hidden force that's keeping you right where you are. We like to call this force your invisible ceiling. And this brings us right into section 1 of our explainer. See, this ceiling is like a self-imposed limit on your wealth, and it's all determined by a pre-programmed set of beliefs about money, what we call your money blueprint.
So, where does a blueprint like that even come from? Well, it's often created way back in our childhood through something psychologists call a financial flashpoint. This is basically a single, really powerful, emotionally charged memory about money that gets burned into your subconscious, and it sticks with you for life.
And these can be anything, really. Maybe you saw your parents having a huge fight over bills, or maybe you just constantly heard phrases like, "we can't afford that," or "money doesn't grow on trees," or maybe you were even taught that rich people are greedy. These moments might seem small, but believe me, their impact is absolutely huge.
And here's the part you really have to get. These flashpoints aren't just old, dusty memories. Nope, they become the active, running software in your brain. They are your financial operating system, and they're quietly dictating your decisions automatically and unconsciously every single day.
Okay, so how does this programming actually show up in our day-to-day lives? Well, it usually takes the form of one of 3 main money archetypes, and this is our second section. So as I go through these, I want you to ask yourself, which one of these sounds a little too familiar? All right, first, you have the avoider. This person's core belief is that money is stressful, or maybe even a little bit dirty. So what do? They ignore their bank statements. They put off financial decisions. They just avoid it. Then there's the worshiper. This person believes money is the solution to all of life's problems. They're always chasing that next dollar, that next raise, but they never ever feel like they have enough. And finally, you've got the status seeker. For them, the appearance of wealth is everything. They buy things to impress people, often going into debt for liabilities, not building any real, lasting wealth. Each one is its own kind of trap.
So take a second, be really honest with yourself here. Which one of those, which core belief, which behavior, kind of hits a little too close to home? Just identifying which one you are is a massive first step to rewriting that programming. But why are these patterns so ridiculously hard to break? Well, it's because they're being reinforced by a super deep-seated biological mechanism. This brings us to section 3, the scarcity loop trap.
See, this whole loop is powered by something called a zero-sum mindset. This is an ancient evolutionary survival instinct. I mean, think about it. For our ancestors, resources really were finite. If another tribe got the mammoth, that meant less food for you. It was win-lose. And guess what? Your brain is still wired to see the world that way.
So when you feel financial pressure today, like you're worrying about rent or a big car repair bill, your brain doesn't see a modern problem. It sees a saber-toothed tiger. It flips a switch and activates this survival state that neuroscientists call tunneling mode.
And this mode is just devastating for your finances. When you're in it, your focus literally narrows. You become so laser-focused on the immediate threat, the bill that's due tomorrow, that you completely lose the ability to see the bigger picture, to see long-term solutions or opportunities. You're just trying to survive the next 24 hours, and that almost always leads to poor, short-sighted decisions that keep you stuck.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, right? We have an old mental blueprint, and it's being reinforced by this biological scarcity loop. But here's the good news. You can absolutely break out of it. So let's move to our final section, section 4, your abundance playbook. It's a simple 2-step plan to start rewiring your brain for wealth.
The strategy is really simple, but it is incredibly powerful. It involves just 2 key actions. First, we're going to build what's called a safety floor to calm down your brain's survival instincts. And then second, we're going to do a daily abundance audit to actively change your mindset. Now, listen, the whole purpose of the safety floor isn't about getting rich quick. It's about creating just enough financial stability, maybe it's 1 month of expenses and savings, maybe it's 3, to tell that ancient part of your brain, hey, we're okay, the tiger is gone. This calms your nervous system right down, it turns off that destructive tunneling mode, and it finally gives you the mental breathing room to think long-term again. All right, next up is the abundance audit. And this is such a powerful reframing exercise. For just 1 week, that's it, 7 days, every single time you spend money, I want you to consciously shift your thinking. You are not losing $5 when you buy a coffee, you are circulating $5 into the economy. You are providing value, paying a barista's wage, supporting a local business. This simple change moves you from feeling like a victim of your finances to being an active, powerful participant in a huge system of value creation.
At the end of the day, the numbers you see in your bank account, they're really just the final chapter of a story that's being written every single day inside your own mind. So the question is, how you can actually engineer your mindset for financial mastery. And look, this isn't about some quick fix hack. It's about a total rewire of what I like to call your internal wealth thermostat, so you can build lasting success. Okay, think about this. Every single day, there's a battle raging inside your head. It's future you, the you that wants freedom, security, all that good stuff, up against present you, who, let's be honest, just wants that hit of instant gratification. And who wins that daily fight? Well, that pretty much decides your entire financial future.
So to really get a grip on this internal tug-of-war, we've got to go back to this super famous experiment. You've probably heard of it, the Stanford marshmallow experiment. The whole setup was ridiculously simple. A researcher would offer a kid 1 marshmallow right now, or if they could just wait 15 minutes, they'd get 2.
Okay, but here's where it gets absolutely wild. The long-term results were just staggering. The kids who managed to wait, the ones who sided with their future self, they just crushed it later in life. I'm talking way higher SAT scores, lower BMIs, and, this is the big one for us, a much, much higher net worth. That simple act of waiting paid off like for decades.
So that brings us to today, right? The modern world has basically weaponized this whole desire for instant rewards. I call it dopamine financials. Social media isn't just a way to kill time. It's literally an engine perfectly designed to make you crave that next purchase, that quick hit of validation. And that is the absolute enemy of building real, lasting wealth.
And here's a great way to think about it. Picture wealth building like you're filling up a CO2 tank. It takes a while, right? You've got to build that pressure up slowly. But every time you make one of those impulse buys, you're just venting the pressure. You're letting out the very energy that powers compound interest, where your money starts making its own money.
Okay, so if the world around us is basically designed to make us fail, how in the world do we fight back? Because let's face it, willpower alone just isn't going to cut it. The real answer? It's our first big strategy, engineering friction.
And this is the key insight, right here. The goal isn't to be some kind of superhero who can resist every single temptation. I mean, who can do that? It's exhausting. The real pro move is to just stop playing that game altogether. Instead, you take control of your environment.
So what does that actually look like? What can you do today? It's 2 super simple but crazy powerful steps. First thing, get those one-click shopping apps off your phone. Right now, just delete them. Make it harder to buy stuff. And second, create a delay for yourself. Move your serious savings to an account that takes, say, 3 days to transfer money out of. That little 3-day gap, it's a lifesaver. It's usually all the time you need for that crazy
External world. But now, we've got to go deeper. We have to look at our own internal programming. And that brings us to this big idea, your money thermostat.
So what the heck is a money thermostat? Just think of it like this. It's a subconscious setting for what you believe is normal and possible for you financially. And here's the kicker. That setting isn't something you consciously choose. It gets automatically calibrated to the average of your social circle, the people you hang out with the most. And this is where it can get a little uncomfortable, but it's so important. If all your friends are constantly complaining about being broke, always stressed about bills, guess what your brain starts to think? It learns that being broke is the safe temperature, it's normal. That struggle becomes your normal. Your thermostat gets stuck on broke, and you don't even know it's happening.
So if our surroundings are setting our thermostat on autopilot, the big question is, how do we grab the controls and reset it ourselves? And that leads us right into strategy number 3, resetting your inputs.
This is all about making a conscious choice about what you let into your brain. You've got to stop listening to all those bro finance influencers screaming about hustle, hustle, hustle. It just creates anxiety. And instead, start listening to people who think in decades, not days. We're talking philosophers, stoics, and real, proven long-term investors.
And if you want to put this on hyperdrive, here's a really powerful technique. The 10x rule. It's simple. Find someone who is making like 10 times what you make, and your goal is to learn from them.
But wait, here's the most important part. This is the twist. You're not going to them to ask for money. You're not even asking for hot stock tips. Your mission is to understand their mindset. You want to get at their core assumptions. What do they believe about the world, about risk, about what's even possible?
And when you do this, you'll uncover a huge paradigm shift. See, the myth, what we all think, is that they just work 10 times harder than us. But the reality? So often, it's that they have 10 times better assumptions. They operate from a place where opportunities are everywhere, not scarce. They see a failure as just a piece of data, not some crushing defeat. They know their time is their most valuable asset. That's the gold you're digging for.
Okay, so we've talked about controlling our environment, resetting our inputs. Now it's time for the last piece of the puzzle, the one that ties it all together, the amplification effect.
So look, it's really important to get this. You're not just going to wake up one morning magically cured of all your old money habits. It doesn't work like that. Mastery isn't some destination you arrive at. It's a daily practice. It's the moment-to-moment choice of picking growth over comfort, of choosing future you over present you.
And that brings us to one of the most profound truths there is about money. You know, we always hear that saying, money changes people. But that's not really true. The truth is, money doesn't change people. It just amplifies who they already are.
Let me break that down. Think of wealth as a giant magnifying glass. It doesn't magically create character out of thin air. It just reveals and magnifies the character that's already there. So if you're a generous, disciplined, kind person right now, with money, you'll become a legendary force for good. But if you're greedy or impulsive or unkind, well, wealth is just going to make you a monster version of that. The real work, the most important work, has to be done on you first.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to point something out, and I'm serious about this. The fact that you've stuck with me through this whole thing, that you've dedicated your attention to really getting these ideas, that alone puts you in the top 1%. Seriously, most people clicked away minutes ago to chase the next dopamine hit, but you didn't. You're still here, doing the work.
That focus you just demonstrated, that discipline, that's not nothing. That's a real investment. In fact, you could say it was your very first deposit into this new way of thinking. So I'll leave you with this one simple question. You just made your first deposit. What's your next one going to be?